Hi everyone, so today I have something special for you, which is to review what is my new daily driver in the previous video that I mentioned briefly. So here we are. So what we have here is the 2020 VW Polo, which is a small compact hatchback that produces pretty good driving experience for such a small car itself. One thing I like about the car is of this color. So the color is in Umano Grey, but the camera is not doing it justice. But under the sun, the grey is actually more prominent than what's captured in the camera itself. In the camera itself, it looks more like a black color. So yeah, actually the color is kind of disappointing in camera. So now it's fitted with the Spice Spokes 15-inch rims from the front and for the rear. So the car actually comes with filament light bulb lamps, but they have an LED daylight running light over here. Currently the car is fitted with Bridgestone's 15-inch tire, winter tires, because winter is coming, so we fitted the tires a bit earlier to compensate for the snow and the wet weather condition. So yep, I'm now fitted with winter tires. So moving to the rear, we have LED tail lights for daylight and nighttime running lights, as well as a VW Polo, badge, and as well the rear. So the rear is as such, it's a pretty decent looking space. So it has quite a depth to the boot space, and however, underneath this board, we are only greeted with no spare tire, but an inflatable kit, as well as an air pump and a first aid kit in case of incidences. And one thing about this board I quite like is that you can actually raise it to actually lower the height to enter the lip over here in the bumper itself. So you want to put heavy stuff, actually you can just go in much easier, but normally I prefer it to keep it at the lower setting, given that I will have more room space itself. And then that, there's not much compartment space. There's only one small compartment here which I put my grocery bags and the cleaning kit, but that's about it. And also we have a parcel shelf, not very, just okay to cover up what's in the back. And yeah, first the rear. Moving on to the back of the car. So we have a lot of space in terms of the rear, given that it is a small hatchback. As some of you might know that I'm not a very small person, but because you can see, this car has a lot of space, given that this is in my driving position right now. And look at my amount of legroom that I have. It's actually pretty ample. It's more than one fist. It could be 2 fists. This is for when I'm in my driving position. So it's actually pretty a lot of space. This one, if I were to move forward to my driving position, is still comfortable, but still this is a very good amount of space for a small car itself, given for this Volkswagen's Polo in its category as well. So I'm pretty impressed by it. So same as the front, we have blue stitching throughout and a transition to a blue color headrest, and there's no center armrest unfortunately. So, and the rear has a very big cup holder, which I'm pretty impressed, to be honest. As well, it comes with 2 USB-C ports. This car also has the ability to lower its barrier seats, so we will actually have more space at the rear itself. So yeah, both sides can be lowered, and then just by a simple switch and by pushing it back and locking in place, the chair is back to its original position. This car comes with a 5-speed manual gearbox. This means that it has 3 pedals than a conventional 2 for an automatic. So yeah, this car is up for a manual gearbox, which I love for such a small car itself. And it does its driving perfectly well, which I'm pretty impressed. As you can see, the cabin is actually a very small space, but it's enough for me, which is tall enough because I'm only 178. This will fire up the infotainment system. As now you can see it, now we're at the infotainment system, so now we can actually see all the information that we need of the car, how much kilometers to go before refilling again. Then we have the sat nav, and we have the menu, which have the radio, telephone, navigation assistance system, Apple CarPlay, speaker and sounds, all this normal configuration. What do I normally use is Apple CarPlay. So the Apple CarPlay actually comes with a few basic Apple CarPlay functions. So this is running on the new Apple CarPlay OS. So we have the individual wallpaper, which is kind of interesting. We can choose like the wallpaper, so many to choose from, but I went for the most vibrant one. So we have Apple Maps, and then we have Apple Music. Everything on Apple CarPlay usually is here, and we have phone messages. Pretty useful, especially given that I'm using an iPhone, and most of the time I'll just use the Apple CarPlay itself because it makes more sense for me rather than using the navigation, which doesn't usually be accurate for me. So yeah, I use Apple Maps more often, and Apple Music and messages. We have nothing much in terms of the systems. We have only a few things we can change, but there's no mode settings for the car. So the main thing here will be the individual climate controls, as you can see here. So we can control it independently via a sync, or we can just use the independent controls by turning off the sync button, and we can have an independent climate control for each of the compartment itself. But normally I will keep it on sync because it's easier to control on one side, given there's only one person is me. And then the AC normally is off, and then yeah, we will just let the wind vent in from the front intake itself. As for the glove compartment, there's actually nothing much. They just start for like the winter gear for the ice. This is to crack the ice when during winter the windshield is a bit frozen, so we can break it off. And then here we have the instruction manual for this model itself. So the glove compartment is actually not very big, it's about my hand size. So normally I just store this basic emergency need like a high visibility jacket, and then as well as the ice breaking tool. So in terms of performance, you might be wondering what's underneath the hood. So we have a 1 liter 3-cylinder naturally aspirated petrol engine, which is also what's known as a TSI engine, which can rev up to 5,000 RPM and which produces only 95 horsepower. It is much lesser than what I'm used to, but nonetheless it is still a small hatchback, so the size of it actually compensates the speed and the torque of the vehicle itself, which I'm pretty impressed by the car itself when I first collected it, and I was so happy with its performance. So now let me tell you the few things that I like about this car and what I don't like about this car. One of the things that I like about the car is actually it's over here. It is actually a rubber studs that actually VW actually designed so that when driving, this thing won't actually go around hitting things when it's at this cabin here. So the rubber will actually makes it muffled, the sound will be muffled. So yeah, so you can hit it, but there's not much sound to read when you're sitting at the back. So I'm pretty impressed by this small little detail that this car have. Next will be the seat belts. So the seat belt actually has one small groove here that's pretty interesting, where you can pull it how much, it will go back to its original place. I feel that Volkswagen have overdone it in a way that it's not supposed to be necessary to have it, but it's good to have. So the seatbelt will always retain its original position, which I'm pretty impressed. One thing I quite like is the Qi charging. So it comes with Qi charging, 2 USB ports. The one thing I really love is the blue interior that actually goes throughout the whole car itself. That actually follows suit, that matches the stitching itself. One thing I don't like about this car is the small glove box, which is kind of annoying sometimes. Although it is able to extend and help me change my gear, but it has a very small compartment right here, which can barely fit anything at all. My hand just literally filled up the whole cabin itself. It is totally redundant, I feel. So another thing I actually don't like about this car is this weird shaped looking cup holders that does not allow me to put a normal size bottle in. You only can put in those smaller cups or cans. Other than that, it does not fit anything other than my phone, which annoys me the most. So what do I like about this car? It's a manual gearbox, and apparently it drives kind of nice, given that it is like a very smooth going car, but it reaches its top gear at about 50 kilometers per hour, which is kind of a bummer really. So other than that, I have no complaints. And then it's just a very short gear that I was unexpectedly interested in. It was a getting used to. Normally I have a car that is like a manual, but then the gear is actually slightly longer. But this was the first for me, maybe because it's a small hatchback. The gearbox is pretty good on its own. Normally I'll sit around 4th gear at the city areas because the top speed is about 50 km/h in towns. But yeah, other than that, it's actually pretty good. For a 3-cylinder engine, it produces quite a lot of power, but just that in my view, the torque is still lacking behind, because like when let's say I want to do a pickup, it won't be as quick compared to a higher torque variant of the car. The next variant of this car itself will be the GTI, which is way higher in terms of price, but me is sufficient enough to do at my daily drive. And then for a 40-liter fuel tank, you can go up to 720 kilometers for range, which I think is pretty good for a small car like this. So this is the drive of the car itself, pretty smooth. The suspension is very good, and in terms of when it comes to humps or any potholes in the road, like right now, it's pretty good. So this is my review of my 2022 Volkswagen Polo. So yeah, this car I'll be bringing on a lot of adventures to come, and the first adventure will be to Munich itself, which will be a 2-hour drive from my place. But then it will be the first road trip I have in this car itself, which I'm pretty excited for, given that it is a brand new Volkswagen Polo and I love it. It's just that it's a manual, so long distance driving might be a bit tiring. So this will be the end of one of my review videos. Hopefully you will not see one in a long time. This kind of videos actually take a while to edit. Mad respect to those who actually do review videos every other day. But yeah, do leave a comment if you like this kind of video or what kind of video I should do next. Do drop a like, do subscribe if you'd like to continue to follow on my adventures throughout Europe itself. Alright, I shall see you in the next video.